Jake Morrison stood at the viewing window of the alien ship and stared into the darkness of space. The stars looked the same as they did from Earth, but everything else was different now. He had been working with the Zephyrian fleet for 3 years, and he still felt like an outsider. The control room behind him buzzed with activity. The alien crew moved with quick, nervous movements. Their blue skin seemed paler than usual, and their large eyes darted back and forth between the screens. Jake had learned to read their body language over the years. They were scared. "Captain Morrison," called out Commander Vextel, the ship's leader. His voice carried the clicking sounds that all Zephyrians made when they spoke. "Please come see this." Jake walked over to the main display screen. The Zephyrian officer pointed at a small dot that blinked red against the star map. "We found something," Vextel said. "Something that should not be there." Jake looked at the readings. The numbers made no sense. "What am I looking at?" "A ship," Vextel replied. "But our computers cannot identify it. It does not match any known vessel in our database. The energy signature is unlike anything we have seen in 3,000 years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Galactic Empire had records of every ship that had ever been built. Their database contained information about millions of different vessels from thousands of different worlds. If something was not in their files, it meant one of two things. It was either very old or very dangerous. "Where did it come from?" Jake asked. "Unknown," Vextel said. "It appeared at the edge of our sensors 20 minutes ago. It was not there before." One moment space was empty. The next moment this ship was there. Jake studied the readings more carefully. The ship was moving toward the inner systems of the Empire. Its speed was impossible. No known technology could move that fast through space. "Have you tried to contact it?" Jake asked. "Yes," Vextel replied. "We have sent messages on all frequencies. The ship does not respond. It continues on its path as if we do not exist." Jake felt his heart beating faster. Something was very wrong here. Ships did not just appear from nowhere. They did not ignore communication attempts. And they certainly did not move at speeds that broke the laws of physics. "We need to report this," Jake said. "Already done," Vextel replied. "Admiral Kethfer wants to see all the data immediately." Within an hour, Jake found himself in a communication room talking to one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Admiral Kethfer was a tall, imposing figure, with silver scales and eyes that seemed to see everything. He had been leading the Empire's fleets for over 200 years. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said, "tell me what you saw." Jake described the mysterious ship and the strange readings. The Admiral listened without interrupting. When Jake finished, there was a long silence. "This is troubling," Admiral Kethfer said finally. "We are sending you additional data from our deep space monitoring stations. It appears this ship has been detected at several locations simultaneously. This should be impossible," Jake felt. Confused. How can one ship be in multiple places at once? "It cannot," the Admiral replied, "unless it is not one ship, or unless it is using technology that we do not understand." The data arrived on Jake's screen. The readings showed the same energy signature appearing at different points throughout the outer rim of the galaxy. The ship seemed to be moving in a pattern that made no tactical sense. "Sir," Jake said, "this looks like a scouting pattern, like something is mapping our defenses." Admiral Kethfer nodded grimly. "That is what we fear. We are calling in Dr. Lisa Park from the Imperial Research Institute. She is our best expert on unknown technologies." Jake knew about Dr. Park. She was one of the few humans who had achieved a high position in the Empire's scientific community. Her work on energy systems had helped the Empire develop new weapons and shields. 2 days later, Dr. Park arrived at the monitoring station. She was a small woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She worked day and night, studying the data about the mysterious ship. "This is incredible," she told Jake during a brief break. The ship's hull appears to be made of materials that do not exist in our periodic table. The energy output suggests a power source that we cannot identify. It is as if someone took our most advanced technology and combined it with something completely alien. Could it be from another galaxy? Jake asked. Possibly, Dr. Park replied. But there is something else. Some of the energy patterns look familiar. I have seen similar readings before, but I cannot remember where. Jake felt a growing sense of unease. The ship continued its approach toward the Empire's core worlds. It ignored all attempts at communication. It seemed to be studying their defenses while remaining completely invisible to their weapons targeting systems. Dr. Park, Jake said, what if this ship is not alien at all? What if it is human? Dr. Park looked surprised. Impossible. Humans do not have this kind of technology. Earth was destroyed 20 years ago. The surviving human colonies use basic technology that is centuries behind ours. But what if some humans had access to advanced technology before Earth was destroyed? Jake insisted. What if they built something in secret? Dr. Park was quiet for a long moment. That would explain why some of the energy patterns seemed familiar. Human technology has a distinctive signature, but this ship's capabilities are far beyond anything Earth ever produced. Jake stared at the display, showing the mysterious ship's path. It was now only 3 days away from the Empire's most heavily defended systems. Soon, they would have answers. But Jake was beginning to suspect that those answers would change everything. The ship that had appeared from nowhere was heading straight for the heart of the Galactic Empire. It carried no identification, responded to no communication, and used technology that should not exist. But Jake was starting to believe that somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity had not died as quietly as everyone thought. Something was coming home, and the Empire was not ready for it. Fleet Admiral Zextal had never seen anything like it. The war room of the Imperial Command Station was filled with the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy. Every screen showed the same image, a single ship moving toward their most important worlds. 200 vessels, Admiral Zextal said to his commanders. The largest fleet we have assembled in 50 years. We will intercept this intruder and demand answers. The alien officers around the table nodded in agreement. They had conquered thousands of worlds. One unknown ship would not be a problem for them. The dreadnought Eternal Dominion will lead the formation, the Admiral continued. We will show this intruder the power of the Galactic Empire. 3,000 light-years away, on the human colony of New Montana, Ben Carter was working in his small office when his computer made a sound he had not heard in 20 years. The sound of an encrypted military message. Ben's hands shook as he opened the message. The text was short, but it made his blood turn cold. Ghost protocol activated. Project Lazarus is live. Authorization, Carter, Benjamin, Serial, 7749. Time to come home. Ben stared at the screen. Project Lazarus had been terminated 20 years ago. The files had been destroyed. The people who worked on it were dead. But someone was using his authorization codes. Ben reached for his communication device and called the only person he could trust. Amy Rogers had been his second-in-command during the war with the Empire. Now she worked as a security chief on Meridian Point, a trade station in neutral space. Amy, I need to see you, Ben said when she answered. It's about Lazarus. There was silence on the other end. Then Amy spoke in a whisper. Ben, that project never existed. You know that. Someone just activated it using my codes, Ben replied. Meet me at the usual place, and Amy, bring everything you kept from the old days. Amy Rogers felt her heart racing as she gathered her old files. She had promised herself she would never look at them again. The memories were too painful, but something was happening, and she needed to understand what. She arrived at the meeting place 12 hours later. It was a small cafe on the edge of the trade station, where humans and aliens mixed freely. Ben was already there, looking older than his 50 years. "Show me," Amy said without greeting him. Ben handed her a data pad. Amy read the message and felt the same chill Ben had experienced. Project Lazarus was supposed to be a myth, a story that desperate people told themselves during the darkest days of the war. "Ben, this is impossible," Amy said. "Lazarus was just a theory. We never had the technology to build it." "Look at the technical specifications," Ben replied. "Someone did build it, and now it's out there." Amy studied the data. The ship's specifications matched theoretical designs she had seen 20 years ago. But the technology described was far beyond anything Earth had possessed. "These energy readings," Amy said slowly, "they matched the quantum matrices we were working on before Earth fell." "That's not the worst part," Ben said. "Look at the trajectory data." Amy looked at the star charts. The unknown ship was moving through space in a pattern that seemed random, but Amy recognized it immediately. It was a search pattern that she had designed herself during the war. "Oh my God," Amy whispered. "It's looking for something, or someone." Back at the Imperial Research Institute, Dr. Lisa Park was working through the night. The data from the mysterious ship was unlike anything she had ever seen. The more she studied it, the more confused she became. The ship's hull was made of a metal that should not exist. It contained elements that were only theoretical, but the energy signature was familiar. She had seen similar patterns in her research on human technology. "Computer," she said to her workstation, "display all files related to Earth military technology from 20 years ago." The screen filled with information about human weapons, ships, and defensive systems. Dr. Park compared the data to the readings from the unknown ship. The similarities were undeniable. "This is a human ship," she said to herself. "But how is that possible?" Dr. Park accessed restricted files about the fall of Earth. She read about the final battle, when the Empire's fleets had destroyed humanity's homeworld. The report said that all human military technology had been captured or destroyed. But what if the reports were wrong? What if some humans had hidden their most advanced technology before the end? Dr. Park found a reference to something called Project Deep Storage. The file was heavily encrypted, but she managed to decode part of it. It mentioned research into quantum consciousness transfer and self-repairing hull materials. Jake called to Captain Morrison, who was reviewing tactical data nearby. "I think I know what we're dealing with." Jake came over to her workstation. "What did you find?" "The ship is human," Dr. Park said. "But it's not just carrying human technology. It's carrying human minds." Jake looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Before Earth fell, human scientists were working on a way to preserve consciousness in quantum matrices. They could upload human minds into ship computers, creating vessels that could operate for centuries without crews." Jake felt a chill. "You're saying this ship is operated by dead humans?" "Not dead," Dr. Park corrected. "Preserved. Uploaded. They found a way to cheat death itself." The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. If Dr. Park was right, then the ship heading toward the Empire's core worlds was not just carrying advanced technology. It was carrying the minds of Earth's greatest military leaders. People who had been fighting the Empire for years before Earth fell. "We need to warn Admiral Kethfer," Jake said. "It may be too late," Dr. Park replied. "Look at the latest position reports." The mystery ship had changed course. Instead of heading toward the Empire's core worlds, it was now moving toward the fleet that had been sent to intercept it. The ship was going to meet the Empire's forces in the Kepler Nebula. "It's not running away," Jake realized. "It's going to fight." Dr. Park nodded grimly. 200 ships against one, but that one ship contains the preserved consciousness of humanity's best military minds. They've had 20 years to plan their revenge. Jake stared at the tactical display. The Empire's fleet was moving into position, confident in their overwhelming numerical advantage. But they had no idea what they were about to face. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the ghost ship continued its approach. Inside its quantum processors, the uploaded minds of Earth's defenders were preparing for the battle they had been dreaming of for 20 years. The Empire had thought they had won the war when they destroyed Earth. They were about to learn that some wars never truly end. The Kepler Nebula was a beautiful place to die. Swirling clouds of purple and gold gas stretched across millions of kilometers. Ancient stars cast eerie shadows through the cosmic dust. It was here that the Empire's greatest fleet would meet. A single mysterious ship. Fleet Admiral Zextal stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. The massive dreadnought was the pride of the Imperial fleet. Its weapons could destroy entire cities. Its shields could withstand the combined firepower of 100 smaller ships. "All vessels report, ready for battle," announced the tactical officer. "The target is approaching from Sector 7. Admiral Zextal studied the display. 200 of the Empire's finest warships were arranged in perfect formation. Battleships, cruisers, and destroyers all waited for his command. It was enough firepower to conquer a solar system. "There," said the sensor officer. "Visual contact." The main screen lit up with the image of the mystery ship. It was smaller than expected, maybe half the size of a battleship. Its hull was dark, gray, almost black, with strange patterns that seemed to shift and move in the light. "It's not slowing down," observed the tactical officer. Admiral Zextal watched as the lone ship approached his massive fleet. It showed no signs of fear or hesitation. It moved with the confidence of a predator stalking its prey. "Open communication channels," the Admiral ordered. "Unknown vessel, you are surrounded by the Imperial fleet. Identify yourself immediately, or we will open fire." The response came immediately. A voice spoke across all frequencies, clear and strong. It was a human voice, but there was something strange about it. It sounded like multiple people speaking at once. "I am Admiral Frank Stone of the Earth Defense Force. I bring greetings from the dead." Admiral Zextal felt his blood turn cold. Frank Stone had been Earth's greatest military leader during the war. He had died when Earth fell 20 years ago. Everyone knew that. "Impossible," the Admiral said. "Frank Stone is dead. Earth is destroyed. Death is a temporary inconvenience," the voice replied. "We have found a way around it. Now we have come to collect what is ours." "You are one ship against 200, Admiral Zextal said. "Surrender now, and we will make your death quick." The laughter that came across the communication channel was cold and mechanical. "Admiral, you destroyed our world. You killed our families. You scattered our people across the galaxy. Did you really think we would just accept defeat?" The mystery ship suddenly stopped moving. It hung in space like a dark angel, surrounded by the Empire's fleet. Energy readings spiked across all Imperial sensors. "All ships, open fire," Admiral Zextal commanded. The space around the mystery ship erupted in light. Hundreds of energy beams and missile salvos converged on the lone target. The firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon. But when the light faded, the ship was still there. Around it, a shield of rippling energy absorbed every attack. The shield looked like liquid mercury, flowing and changing as the weapons hit it. "Impossible," whispered the tactical officer. "Nothing can withstand that much firepower." The mystery ship began to move again, but this time, it was attacking. Energy beams lanced out from hidden weapon ports. But these were not ordinary weapons. They seemed to bend space itself, twisting reality around their targets. The first Imperial battleship hit by the beams simply stopped working. All its systems shut down at once. The ship went dark and began to drift helplessly through space. "What happened to the Valar?" Admiral Zextal demanded. "Unknown, sir," the communications officer replied. "All systems are offline. The crew is not responding." More beams lanced out from the mystery ship. Each one disabled another Imperial vessel. The weapons did not destroy the ships. They simply turned them off, like switching off a light. Fall back, Admiral Zextiel ordered. All ships, retreat to maximum range. But the mystery ship was faster than anything in the Imperial fleet. It moved through space like a ghost, appearing and disappearing in the nebula's gas clouds. One by one, it hunted down the fleeing vessels. The Eternal Dominion tried to run, but the mystery ship caught up to it. A single pulse of energy hit the massive dreadnought. Every light went out. Every engine stopped. The pride of the Imperial fleet became a helpless chunk of metal floating in space. Admiral Zextiel found himself in darkness. Emergency power flickered on after several minutes. The bridge was chaos. Officers ran back and forth, trying to restore systems that refused to respond. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the mystery ship." "Put it through," the admiral said weakly. The voice of Frank Stone filled the bridge. "Admiral, your fleet is disabled but not destroyed. Your crews are alive but powerless. Consider this a demonstration of our capabilities. What do you want?" Admiral Zextiel asked. "We want what was taken from us," Stone replied. "We want our people back. We want justice for Earth. And we want the galaxy to know that humanity is not extinct." The mystery ship appeared on the main screen. It moved slowly past the disabled dreadnought, as if inspecting its handiwork. Admiral Zextiel could see strange lights moving across its hull, like neurons firing in a vast brain. "This is impossible," he said. "You are one ship. We are an empire of 1,000,000 worlds." "We are not one ship," Stone replied. "We are the beginning, the first of many, and we carry with us the memories of every human who died in your war." The ship began to move away from the disabled fleet. But before it disappeared into the nebula, it broadcast a message across all Imperial frequencies. The message was heard on every world in the Empire. "People of the galaxy," the voice said, 20 years ago, the Empire told you that humanity was extinct. They lied. We survived. We endured. We evolved. Now we are coming home." The message continued. "To every human in the galaxy, wherever you are, whatever world you call home, remember Earth. Remember who you are. Remember that you are not alone. The time of exile is ending. The time of return has begun." On New Montana, Ben Carter heard the message and felt tears on his cheeks. He recognized the voice of his old commander, the man who had saved his life a dozen times during the war. "Frank," he whispered, "you magnificent bastard. You actually did it." Amy Rogers heard the message on Meridian Point. She immediately began sending coded transmissions to human settlements across the galaxy. The message was simple. Ghost Protocol is active. Lazarus is awake. Come home. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 different worlds, humans stopped what they were doing and listened. They heard the voice of their greatest hero, speaking from beyond the grave. They heard the promise that they were not forgotten. The Empire's leadership went into emergency session. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The mystery ship had vanished, but its message had been heard everywhere. Human settlements that had been quiet for decades were suddenly buzzing with activity. One ship, Admiral Kethfer said to his council, one ship just terrified the entire Empire. How is this possible? Dr. Lisa Park, now under heavy guard because of her human ancestry, provided the answer. It's not just one ship, Admiral. It's a ghost ship carrying the preserved consciousness of Earth's greatest minds. And if they built one, they built more. The Empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years suddenly found itself facing an enemy that refused to stay dead. An enemy that had learned from defeat and returned stronger than ever. In the depths of space, the ghost ship continued its journey. Inside its quantum processors, the preserved minds of Earth's defenders were already planning their next move. The Empire had taught them that might makes right. Now they would learn that lesson themselves. The emergency session of the Imperial Council lasted 3 days. Representatives from every major world in the Empire gathered to discuss the crisis. The ghost ship had disappeared, but its message had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Martial law, announced Supreme Chancellor Korthak. All human settlements are now under direct military control. No human may travel between worlds without permission. No human may access communication networks without supervision. The alien leaders around the table nodded in agreement. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years by keeping conquered species divided and weak. Humans had been scattered across thousands of worlds after Earth's destruction. Now something was trying to unite them again. What about the human liaison officers in our fleets? Asked Admiral Kethver. Detained, the Chancellor replied. All humans serving in the Imperial military are security risks until we understand what we're dealing with. Jake Morrison found himself in a detention cell aboard the monitoring station. He was not alone. Every human in the Imperial fleet had been arrested. They sat in small groups, talking quietly about what they had witnessed. Did you see the way it moved? Asked Tony Blake, a human engineer from the cruisers. That ship handled our entire fleet like it was nothing. It's not just the technology, replied Maria Santos, a communications officer. It's the voice. I knew men who served under Admiral Stone. That was really him talking. Jake listened to the conversations around him. The other humans were scared, but they were also excited. For the first time in 20 years, they had hope. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Park was being questioned by Imperial intelligence officers. They wanted to know everything she had learned about the ghost ship's technology. The quantum consciousness transfer, said Agent Vexmar. How does it work? I don't know, Dr. Park replied honestly. The theory is simple, but the practical application is beyond anything we understand. Someone would need to map every neural pathway in a human brain, and then find a way to preserve that pattern in a quantum matrix. Could other humans have this technology? The agent asked. Dr. Park was quiet for a moment. If they do, then we have a serious problem. Each ghost ship could carry dozens of preserved minds, and those minds would have had 20 years to plan their revenge. Her words sent chills through the intelligence community. The Empire had always controlled the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. But if humans had found a way to preserve their best minds and most advanced technology, the balance of power could shift dramatically on New Montana. Ben Carter and Amy Rogers were hiding in an abandoned mining complex. Imperial troops had surrounded the human settlements, but the old military tunnels provided a way to move unseen. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to her scanner. Energy readings from the old launch facility on Kepler-4 for Tabi. Someone's been there recently. Ben studied the data. That's where we tested the prototype consciousness transfer equipment. But the facility was sealed 20 years ago. Maybe someone unsealed it, Amy suggested. If the ghost ship is real, there might be others. They began planning a dangerous journey to the abandoned world. If there were more ghost ships, they needed to find them. And if there were other preserved minds waiting to be awakened, humanity needed to know. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. Human settlements across the galaxy were placed under lockdown. Anyone caught trying to leave was arrested. Communication networks were monitored for any mention of Earth or the ghost ship. But the Empire's harsh response only made things worse. Humans who had been loyal citizens began to remember their anger. They remembered the destruction of Earth. They remembered the families they had lost. They remembered being treated as second-class citizens in their own galaxy. On the trade station, Meridian Point, word spread quietly through the human quarters. People began gathering in small groups, sharing stories about the old days. They talked about Earth's blue skies and green forests. They talked about the heroes who had died defending their home. My father fought at the Battle of Luna, said old Pete Williams, a dock worker. He always said the war wasn't over. He said Earth would rise again someday. My sister was on the last transport out of Earth, added Sarah Kim, a merchant. She made me promise to remember our home. I never forgot. Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds. The Empire had tried to erase human culture and history, but the ghost ship's message had awakened something that had been sleeping for 20 years. The Empire's intelligence network began reporting unusual activity. Human settlements that had been quiet for decades were suddenly buzzing with movement. Hidden caches of old equipment were being discovered. Communication codes that had been forgotten were suddenly being used again. "They're organizing," reported Agent Kexavel to his superiors. "Something is coordinating human activity across the galaxy." The truth was more complex than the Empire realized. The ghost ship had not just broadcast a message, it had seeded the galaxy with quantum communication nodes. These devices allowed instant communication across vast distances, but they were invisible to Imperial sensors. Ben Carter and Amy Rogers discovered this when they reached the abandoned facility on Kepler 4 for 2B. The place had been sealed for 20 years, but someone had been there recently. New equipment had been installed. The old consciousness transfer chambers had been upgraded with technology that seemed decades ahead of anything from Earth's final days. "Look at this," Amy said, pointing to a display screen. 12 launch bays, all empty. Ben felt his heart racing. 12 ships. The ghost ship we saw was just the first one. They found more evidence in the facility's computer systems. Project Lazarus had been much larger than they had imagined. Earth's scientists had not just built one ghost ship. They had built an entire fleet, and each ship carried the preserved consciousness of Earth's greatest minds. Admiral Stone, General Harrison, Colonel Mitchell, Amy read from the crew manifest. "They're all here. Every military leader we lost in the war." "Not lost," Ben corrected. "Preserved. They've been waiting 20 years for this moment." The computer systems revealed something else that made them both gasp. The ghost ships were not just carrying human consciousness. They were carrying the location of New Eden, a planet in a distant galaxy that Earth's scouts had discovered before the war. "It's a contingency plan," Amy realized. If Earth fell, the ghost ships would gather the scattered human population and lead them to a new home. "And now they're doing exactly that," Ben said. Across the galaxy, the Empire's control was beginning to crack. The harsh crackdown on human settlements had backfired. Instead of preventing organization, it had given humans a common enemy again. Underground networks that had been dormant for decades were suddenly active. The ghost ship appeared again, this time over the capital world of Nexus Prime. It broadcast another message, this one even more disturbing to the Empire's leadership. "Citizens of the galaxy," the voice of Admiral Stone said, "you have lived under the Empire's rule for thousands of years. You have been told that conquest is natural, that the strong have the right to rule the weak. But we are here to tell you that there is another way." The message continued, "We are not here to conquer. We are here to liberate. Not just humans, but all the species that have been oppressed by the Empire. The age of tyranny is ending. The age of freedom is beginning." The implications were staggering. The ghost ships were not just trying to rescue humanity. They were trying to start a galactic revolution, and they had the technology to do it. Supreme Chancellor Korthak called another emergency session. "This is no longer about containing a human rebellion," he announced. "This is about the survival of the Empire itself." But it was already too late. The ghost ships had been busy. They had made contact with other oppressed species. They had shared their technology with resistance movements across the galaxy. The Empire that had ruled through fear and overwhelming force suddenly found itself facing enemies that could not be easily defeated. In the depths of space, more ghost ships were awakening. Each one carried the preserved minds of Earth's greatest heroes, and each one was ready to continue the fight that had begun 20 years ago. The Empire had thought they had won the war when they destroyed Earth. But some wars never truly end. They just change form. and now the ghosts of Earth were coming for their revenge. 6 months after the first ghost ship appeared, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Empire was crumbling. Whole sectors had declared independence. Ancient species that had been conquered centuries ago were rising up against their oppressors. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a human transport ship, watching the stars through the viewport. He was free now. The Empire had been forced to release all human prisoners when their military structure collapsed. Now he was part of something bigger than he had ever imagined. "Captain," called out the ship's navigator, a young woman named Kelly Brooks. "We're receiving coordinates from the ghost ship network." Jake looked at the display. The coordinates showed a path through space that led away from the Empire's core worlds. It was a route to freedom, broadcast by the preserved minds of Earth's greatest heroes. "Set course," Jake ordered. "It's time to go home." Around him, the ship buzzed with activity. Families who had been separated for years were reunited. Children who had never seen Earth listened to stories about their homeland. Old veterans shared memories of the war that had ended 20 years ago. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Millions of humans were leaving the Empire's worlds, following the coordinates broadcast by the ghost ships. They traveled in everything from luxury cruise ships to converted cargo haulers. The Exodus was the largest migration in galactic history. Dr. Lisa Park was aboard one of the lead ships. She had been working day and night to understand the technology that made the journey possible. The ghost ships had not just provided coordinates, they had given humanity new propulsion systems, new life support technology, and new ways to communicate across vast distances. "It's incredible," she told Jake during a brief rest. "They've advanced human technology by centuries. These ships can travel faster than anything the Empire ever built." "How is that possible?" Jake asked. "The preserved minds had 20 years to work on the problem," Dr. Park explained. "They didn't need to sleep or eat or rest. They could think continuously, building on each other's ideas. 20 years of pure research and development. The ghost ships themselves were leading the Exodus, 12 vessels, each carrying the preserved consciousness of Earth's greatest minds. They moved through space like shepherds, guiding their flock to safety. Ben Carter was aboard the lead ghost ship, serving as a liaison between the living and the digital dead. He spent his days talking to Admiral Stone and the other preserved minds, learning about their plans for humanity's future. "The Empire made a mistake," Admiral Stone told him during one of their conversations. "They thought they could scatter us, and we would forget who we are. But hardship makes people stronger. Separation makes them value unity." "What's our destination?" Ben asked. "New Eden," Stone replied. "A world in the Andromeda Galaxy. Perfect. Atmosphere, rich resources, no intelligent life to displace. Earth's scouts found it 3 years before the war ended." Ben felt his heart race. "We're leaving the Milky Way." "We have to," Stone explained. "The Empire will never stop hunting us as long as we're in the same galaxy. New Eden is our chance to start over, to build something better." The journey to New Eden would take months, even with the advanced technology of the ghost ships. But humanity was not traveling alone. Other species had joined the Exodus. The Corellian refugees, whose homeworld had been destroyed by the Empire. The Zephyrian rebels, who had been fighting a losing war for decades. The Talarian merchants, who had been bankrupted by imperial trade policies. "We're not just rescuing humanity," Amy Rogers said during a planning meeting. "We're creating a new civilization. A place where all species can live free from the Empire's tyranny." The Empire tried to stop the Exodus, but their fleets were scattered across the galaxy, dealing with rebellions and uprisings. The few ships that tried to intercept the refugees were easily defeated by the ghost ships. Advanced technology, Supreme Chancellor Korthak watched helplessly as his empire fell apart. World after world declared independence. Trade routes collapsed. The military was deserting in massive numbers. How did this happen? He asked his advisors. We were the most powerful force in the galaxy. We relied too heavily on fear, replied Admiral Kethver. When the humans showed that we could be defeated, everyone else lost their fear of us. The Empire's scientists tried desperately to understand the ghost ship's technology, but they were decades behind. The preserved minds had used their 20 years of isolation to solve problems that had puzzled scientists for centuries. Dr. Park made the most important discovery during the journey to New Eden. She was studying the quantum communication systems when she realized something incredible. Jake, she called excitedly. The ghost ships aren't just carrying preserved minds. They're carrying the entire cultural memory of Earth. What do you mean? Jake asked. Books, movies, music, art, scientific knowledge, historical records. Dr. Park explained. Everything that made Earth's civilization unique has been preserved in quantum storage. We're not just going to New Eden as refugees. We're going as the inheritors of humanity's greatest achievements. The revelation spread through the refugee fleet like wildfire. They were not just escaping the Empire. They were carrying the soul of humanity to a new world. The journey continued for months. The ghost ships led their convoy through dangerous regions of space, avoiding Imperial patrols and hostile alien territories. They stopped at hidden supply stations that had been established decades ago by Earth's far-sighted planners. Finally, after 8 months of travel, they reached the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. New Eden appeared on their screens like a blue-green jewel floating in the darkness. There it is, Admiral Stone announced across all frequencies. Our new home. The planet was everything Earth's scouts had promised. Vast oceans, green continents, breathable atmosphere. No signs of intelligent life, but rich in resources and perfect for human settlement. As the refugee fleet entered orbit around New Eden, Jake Morrison felt tears on his cheeks. He was looking at humanity's future, a world where they could build something better than what they had lost. Captain, Kelly Brooks called out, "We're receiving a final transmission from the ghost ship network." Jake nodded. "Put it through." Admiral Stone's voice filled the bridge one last time. "Citizens of New Eden, we have brought you home. We have given you the tools to build a new civilization. We have preserved the memory of Earth so that you will never forget where you came from." The message continued, "We are the ghosts of the past, but you are the hope of the future. Build something worthy of the sacrifices that brought you here. Make New Eden a place where all species can live in freedom and dignity." As the first shuttles began landing on New Eden's surface, the ghost ships powered down their quantum processors. Their mission was complete. They had saved humanity from extinction and given them a new beginning. But they left behind more than just refugees. They left behind a new philosophy. The idea that strength comes not from conquering others, but from lifting them up. That true power lies not in ruling through fear, but in inspiring through hope. The Galactic Empire still existed, but it was a shadow of its former self. The ghost ships had shown the galaxy that tyrants could be defeated, that the oppressed could rise up and reclaim their freedom. On New Eden, the first human cities began to rise. They were built not just by humans, but by all the species that had joined the Exodus. Corellian engineers worked alongside human architects. Zephyrian farmers shared their knowledge with Talarian merchants. Jake Morrison became the first mayor of New Terra, the planet's capital city. Dr. Lisa Park established the New Eden Institute of Technology, where scientists from dozens of species worked together to unlock the secrets of the universe. Ben Carter and Amy Rogers founded the Memorial Foundation, dedicated to preserving the memory of Earth and all the worlds lost to the Empire's tyranny. They made sure that future generations would remember the price of freedom. The ghost ships remained in orbit around New Eden, silent guardians watching over humanity's new home. Sometimes, on quiet nights, People claimed they could hear whispers from the ships, the voices of the preserved minds, sharing their wisdom with the living. "We came to the stars as explorers," Admiral Stone had said in his final message. "We were scattered as refugees, but we return as something greater. We return as proof that the human spirit cannot be broken, that hope can survive even the darkest of times." The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. The Empire had thought they could destroy humanity by destroying Earth, but they had only made humanity stronger. They had created something that would outlast any empire, the unbreakable will to be free. In the years that followed, New Eden became a beacon of hope for oppressed species throughout the galaxy. The ghost ship's message spread to every corner of known space. No matter how dark the night, dawn always comes to those who refuse to surrender. And in the depths of space, other ghost ships waited, ready to answer the call when freedom needed defending, ready to remind the galaxy that some wars are worth fighting, and some victories are worth any sacrifice. The Empire had taught humanity that might makes right, but humanity had learned a different lesson, that right makes might, and that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come.